Today I wanted to talk about the kind of sexual energy that we're putting across, and why do some people get received negatively. People feel like they're either afraid to connect with their juiciness and put that out into the world. They feel like it might come across like as a toxic thing or come across negatively. And I totally understand why that is. I mean, in the past, it was women were afraid to be sexual because women were afraid that if we start acting sexual, we are going to be perhaps victimized by sex offenders, or perhaps be called sluts, slut shaming, and so on and so forth. But in more recent times, it's now started being like men that are shamed about their sexuality. And while that it's a fact, there has been a lot of abuse of women by a minority of men, and this is a real thing. Sexual harassment is a real thing. I've experienced it. I'm sure that any woman here has experienced it. I'm sure most men have experienced it as well. However, when we get to the point, and I speak to a lot of people that feel this way, and when you get to the point that you're afraid to smile at someone, or normal things like in England we love to say to everyone, hey gorgeous, hello beautiful, it tends to be like a pure-hearted thing and a nice thing to say to someone. But when we're afraid to say something, we're afraid to smile, we're afraid that whatever we do is going to be received the wrong way, it's like there's this huge energy of awkwardness between people. But then I think it also goes beyond anything that's intellectual or political or whatever word you want to use, because this goes beyond individual people. This actually goes into a matter of, we've had such an awkward relationship with sexual energy for such a long time, certainly in European culture, so that would include the white Americas, the European countries and so on, that sexual energy has just become like a big mess and a big cesspit of lack of conscious thinking, where people are they're so unconscious about the energy that they're putting across to another person. And for example, people spend most of their lives trying to disconnect from and repress their sexual energy. So then when it rises up, it often rises up in ways people aren't really aware about what is going on. So, I mean, in Taoism, we call sexual energy an amplifier. In other words, what this means is that whatever is there inside us, when the sexual energy arises, it amplifies, yeah? So this works really, really well if you're super aware of any kind of blockages or stuck emotions inside of your body. You know how to transform them, you know how to deal with them. It works really, really perfectly. But when we come from a culture that doesn't actually understand and know how to deal with these emotions, doesn't know how to process them, it can just end up being that we amplify stuff we're not even aware of. It's not in our consciousness, stuff that essentially is our shadows. And then when this happens, we end up just putting energy across to another person that we're not even aware of. And I would say, like, the majority of, obviously the common example is the male who says something to a woman, the woman is like, it's a common example. Of course, it can happen the other way as well. Often as women, we can put needy energy across to men. We can put across energy that's really unpleasant for men to receive as well, absolutely. But when we look at as like whichever way around we're looking at it, not only do we have our own stuff that we're amplifying, but the person we're speaking to likely has their own traumas, whether that trauma might be a mother that didn't treat them in a good way, a father that didn't treat them in a good way, or various other experiences in life. There could be thousands of them. When whatever that situation is then amplified by the sexual energy, it's so easy for the whole situation to just go into chaos and things to get interpreted in ways that basically like nobody really understands. I mean, I do think the fact that sexual energy has this ability to amplify, and I'm sure we all know we can like get really into someone, be having sex, having a great time, all these feelings start coming up that basically, you know, we don't even know where they're coming from. You know, we can just be like thrown left, right, and center by it all. And then everything can kind of like go pear-shaped and go down the pan without people even being aware or even understanding. And very often people will go off and never speak to each other again after they've been having sex, because they just don't actually like really have an understanding both of their own emotional world and of their sexual energy. So ultimately, when we look at sexual energy and we look at projecting it across to another person, just projecting like raw, unfiltered sexual energy at another person. Okay, if it's your partner, you have a really good vibes with them, it can be fine. It's not even necessarily going to work. But this energy generally needs filtering. And in other words, what I'm talking about is it needs to come up into the body, into the heart, into the soul, and then be projected out in this way. And when it's filtered and it's actually sent from like a pure heart across to another person, it's like a completely different situation. But obviously that energy is going to pick up whatever else is going on along the way. So unless we've actually cleared out and worked on and certainly brought into the light, brought into the consciousness whatever else is inside of the body, it's very easy that we're just sending across to people stuff that just we don't know. They don't really know what it is either, but they just kind of get this feeling of, ooh, I don't like that. Because it's so easy. I mean, as people say, it's so easy to kind of dump your shit onto other people. And I mean, I think this in particular, because the specific energetics of the female is to absorb, whereas the energetics of the male is to put out, I guess, it project out, you know. So often it happens in relationships that women are literally absorbing in their partner's negative energies, traumas, whatever you want to call them. Women will find themselves having cancers, various gynecological problems, and so on, which actually comes down to that she's just absorbing this stuff and having to process it, but she doesn't actually have the bandwidth to process it. Of course, it can happen the other way, although, as I mentioned, because of these specific energetics, it can be more likely that the woman just can also take that energy of the man, again, not really knowing what she's doing. It can also happen the other way around. The man can be taking the woman's energy, but when we haven't brought into our actual consciousness what's going on with our sexual energy, what's going on with the emotional energy, because these two, they're like a DNA helix that are just connected together, interconnected together, and you cannot, if you're not aware of your emotional world, if you're full of emotions that you're repressing, if you have all these shadows you have really not brought into the light, when whatever is going on inside you gets amplified by the sexual energy, you're going to find you're just putting across stuff you don't understand that may not be the best quality energy possible. And of course, there is the whole thing of trauma bonding as well, that sometimes we can put across our traumas, attach with someone else's traumas, and then basically, cause a whole like amplification of all of the traumas, which again, it can be fine if people actually have the tools to deal with it and know how to process this. But if you don't have those tools, if you don't know how to process it, again, it can result in the kind of chaos that's so common to see around our lives and other people around us as well. So can I ask if anyone has any questions, if anybody would like to put any questions regarding this into the chat, or to come onto the live and ask me anything. But just to let you know that this process of working on our emotions, clearing out our emotions, is really like something we need to apply a certain amount of energy to. Now, the way I work with people is, when we work with the emotions, we don't actually need to go into stories, which can take years. We actually hack into the energy field to remove those energies that are not helpful anymore, and to basically be able to just shine as our authentic self, as your authentic self, to just be yourself, whoever you are, and shine your light out into the world without all these energy blockages that can cause you to be received by people in ways that you don't understand, they don't understand, but don't feel particularly good. And through just like, say, just like several months of this work, even like within weeks, within like 1 month of doing this work, people have like major breakthroughs, major changes in their, just in their emotional world, also in their energy world, and basically in the energy that they're putting out and across to other people. And this can include like just, you know, the energy is what we feel from other people. It's like sometimes we feel, oh, they have great energy. Sometimes we're like, oh, that's a bit, you know, obviously there's incompatibility as well. But when we're able, first of all, like to be ourselves and actually to really, really feel who we are, it's like the most amazing, brilliant thing. Like when we go through life, just having, you know, this thing, that thing, just subduing our energy, keeping us down. You know, we're trying to be a good person. We're trying to battle it. We're doing everything we can. Maybe like trying a psychology or trying like various other things. You know, working on ourselves. But whilst we don't have control of the energy field, well, we're not able to actually go in and take those energies out, remove them, and really be able to have the power and process over our own body to actually be able to see, okay, this is going on, cool, I'm gonna take it out, I'm gonna clear it out. You know, we're living in a state where we're just kind of like helpless, and we're kind of like a victim of circumstances. And I mean, for me, it was like, you know, I'm someone, I grew up with kind of traumas, which left me with sort of CPTSD, which was causing my whole relationship with my sexual energy to like throw out of whack. And through engaging in actual sexual healing and also being able to learn how my sexual energy can amplify these emotions and how I can actually deal with these emotions, get them out of my body. You know, I went from being like totally out of control of my circumstances. And by the way, I was trying everything. I was doing so much work on myself, having so many different therapies, feeling like, yeah, I was getting some results, but I was not breaking through, and I wasn't being able to be myself. I wasn't able to feel myself and feel happy within myself, feel contented, even have the focus to actually like create and do what I wanted to do, you know, until I actually found these practices, which are the practices I use with my clients, and basically learned to just clear that all out. And within a matter of months, I had like huge shifts, for example, like long-term chronic health problems, addictions, and so on, just clearing these out of my body and really being able to come into myself, come into my purpose, and actually start to really create what it was like that essentially is my destiny to create here in this world. So although, of course, like it's great to feel good within ourselves, it's great to be able to connect with another person and have a really juicy time, and that's all part of it because everything is interconnected, everything is connected together. You know, there's nothing that's separate. You know, we're told the sexual energy is separate, or even that the emotions are separate. None of that is separate, you know. But it's way, way more than this, because literally it is about our purpose. It is about being able to shine out in the world in the right energy, the energy that's authentically ours, like looking through a window that's been cleaned instead of a window that's just covered in mud, which is how so many people are, down to the various emotional energies around that have not been processed. So I haven't seen a question come up. Maybe I'm missing something, but let me look. I want to invite that, first of all, next week I'm doing a 3-day life challenge. Okay, this challenge is for you if you are really like, you've done a lot of work on yourself and you really want to like break out of the mold and become an exceptional person. This is what I'm going to be talking about. There's also videos pinned to the top of the group. Now, if you're watching this and you're really feeling like you've had enough of just being sort of like overwhelmed by emotions that, you know, you don't really know how to shift, that you're really like fighting through things, but you're there and you want to be able to move on. You want to be able to actually get out and really, really shine, really become an exceptional person. Drop me a message, or you can even drop me a comment here in the chat, and let's have a chat, because I'd love to explain to you about what I've got going on. And I do have like a few partial scholarships for people if you're really ready to get going, grab the bull by the horns and actually take action on this. If you've had enough of inertia, you've had enough of just not really going anywhere, get in touch with me, because I'd love to chat. Have a good day or evening. Bye.